Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Laurentian Valley Council for October 6th, Council and Committee. Welcome all of Council and staff and anyone that's listening in. Dean, call to order, please. Present.
Reeve Robinson.
Present.
Councillor Gauthier.
Present.
Councillor Ugly.
Present.
Councillor Pelot.
Present.
Councillor Watt.
Present.
Councillor Wren.
Present.
All members are present.
Okay. Approval of the agenda.
Can I get a mover, please?
Jennifer and Alan.
So moved by Councillor Gauthier, second by Councillor Wren, that the Council Committee meeting of October 6, 2020 be called to order at 5:30.
All in favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Delegations, none. Public meeting under the Planning Act, none. Move right down to MMAH. And Laurie, I'll let you speak to that.
Yes, so the regulations were proclaimed to come into effect that under the Planning Act and related to the Development Charges Act that bring forward the timelines for the community benefit charge. So this now from September the 18th gives us 2 years to transition to a community benefit charge if we so choose to go down that path. So I will be bringing a report later on to council with some options related to that and recommendations about whether that's something that we would follow through with or whether to, stick with what we can do under development charges and the traditional parkland dedication.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Laurie? Keith?
I have 2 questions. One, is it a brand new charge?
Yes, so the community benefit charge is a brand new type of charge, and there's been a lot of change back and forth from when they first introduced it. So what it's ended up with is it's really something for when you get higher density development, a way for municipalities to recoup some of the costs of growth, but ones that wouldn't traditionally have been allowed for under the development charges structure, and then also brings in a tie into the traditional parkland dedication requirements as well.
Okay, and is it more than for brand new developments, like as opposed to a single property development?
So with community benefit charge, it's a little bit different. So it would apply to the higher density, but it could tie into a different strategy related to parkland. So as I say, based on things that might happen in the future, I'll bring a recommendation with some options about whether it's worth us going down that path, but it's definitely to provide some more tools. But because of some of the the municipal and developer feedback that came through their consultation process, they did kind of switch it back and threw more back into development charges.
Okay, thank you.
Alan.
So Laurie, it's not replacing then the parkland dedication for subdivisions that we had in the past.
So basically you can choose to keep, like for the municipalities that keep kind of the traditional percentage, you can keep that structure moving forward. But if you choose to go to a community benefit charge, you have to wrap it together. And there's some guidelines for how that would work. It just gives you more latitude under the Planning Act.
So it's one or the other then? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's one, or you bring the other together. You bring them together, but you still really don't lose that parkland dedication ability. But if you choose to go community benefit charge, you have to do it together with a strategy that encompasses both.
Okay.
I don't think I'm really clear on that either, Alan. So you still keep the parkland if you're doing a development, but then you have to do the other as well?
If you choose to do a community benefit charge process, then you would bring the process that's for cash in lieu of parkland or parkland dedication in under that. And there's a whole strategy that has to be forming part of justifying the community benefit charge. So it becomes that basically then there's 2, you have development charges and a community benefit charge, as opposed to having 3 different things. But so otherwise you could have a development charge and still your traditional parkland dedication.
Okay, thank you.
It's been an ever-changing thing under our feet too, to figure it out.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? No? Okay. So we'll move on to Katie's report, Community Development Officer Advancements. Katie, please.
Yes, good evening. So just before you is a report of some of the activities this past month. So the main thing to note is that our RFP for our website redesign and redevelopment has closed, and I've gone through the applications we've received, and we're going to start by addressing awarding the winner for that, and then start that process very soon. And these other activities listed here are all going to lead into that project, and everything's kind of working holistically together.
Okay. Any questions for Katie? Oh, seeing none. Thanks, Katie. You're doing a good job. Okay, we'll go down to subcommittees, Pembroke Area Airport. Alan?
Okay, so local traffic at the airport still seems to be relatively quiet, but the military, as I guess you've heard over the last while, have been very busy. They've been using it quite a bit. Orange continues to be in and out on a regular basis, Ministry of Natural Resources, but the local traffic remains quiet. We have our next meeting is this month.
And the walk that we had last month?
Yeah, the walk
Success.
turned out very good for the first one ever. We had, I believe it was 172 people participated, which was great. Pretty much the bulk of the people that made comments asked us when we're doing it next year, and we got lots of comments from people that didn't know about it, and if they hadn't known about it, would have come to it. So it's something that was relatively low on the expense costs and a really good return. So yeah, it was very, very much a success.
Good. Any questions for Alan? Emergency management, Laurie? Anything there?
No, just to update, we did have our capital sector meeting today, and so we will be coming forward with some additional items for our program committee, because we still do have to meet all the other requirements this year, although the exercise has been given a waive for this year, but we still do have to meet the other requirements they've confirmed.
Okay, thank you. Corporate services, Algonquin trail use. So Dean, you want to start? You want me to start? Or?
Well, I mean, I guess you can start. You start because I'm with.
So we did meet with CN, Dean and myself, a couple of weeks ago to see if there's any possibility of creating as an option for council, as we discussed in the past, that we would bring an option for council to either have a bypass for motorized traffic, which is required from the county. I believe we mentioned to you before, we meet with CN, but we don't see any alternative with them. They don't want to give us a separate lease. They don't want to, they would like us to buy the whole parcel of the CN. So that's not going to happen. So we kind of walked away from there with really no answers. Snow Country, Skidoo, they are struggling with CN right now to get their new lease, which is up in November. From what we understand, they're looking at a $15 million insurance policy liability, which I believe they got them down to 10, but they can't even get insurance for that. So they're looking for the Algonquin trails an option to keep it through passage right through our area. The Snow Country does not want us, or will not allow us, to sublease the CN trail. So to this point, we've kind of exhausted all our options right now to get motorized traffic, at least for Skidoos, as an option to bring back to council. I know you're all aware of the email that I've been in a dialogue with Dwayne McDougall, who is representing the 3 streets, Burns Drive, etc. Dean and I met with him yesterday morning for the fact that he had given us 10 questions in the summertime, looking for answers, which I had told him in late July you have more questions, why don't you send them to Dean and we'll go through them. So we did that yesterday morning. And we gave him an update as well, telling him that at this point, we don't have an option to present to Laurentian Valley for a bypass for motorized for skidoos. We did tell him at that meeting that we have not gone down the path with ATVs yet to see if there is a bypass that would allow ATVs, as ATVs are a lot easier to travel on the road versus skidoos. But by allowing that, which is allowed in the municipality, that creates a lot more ATV traffic on our roads and on county roads. So I've asked Dean to contact the ATV Club, and they are coming this next meeting to just give us an update on where they are, because there has been issues throughout the year with dust control and especially in Nadine's Bush, that area. So we just wanted them to come for an update, and maybe at that time we can ask them, do you see a possibility for an ATV alternative route? And we'll discuss it with them. All of council will. Again, I just want to make it clear, and I did have a discussion with Dwayne McDougall today, as per his notes that he sent out to his fellow neighbors, which I CC'd everybody to you regarding that it was not our intention whatsoever to give the residents an option of ATVs or snowmobiles. All we said to him was, we are finished our investigation for snowmobiles, but we are going to investigate ATVs to present back to council. So that's kind of what we've done up until this point. Dean, maybe you want to add, or did I miss something? Or
No, I think you covered for the most part. I guess the one caveat to this, I guess, is OFSC and its negotiation of a lease. I tried to get a hold of Terry today. I didn't, Mr. Voudry, to see if there was any update there, but I unfortunately didn't get through to him. But I will be contacting him to see where they're at with their negotiations, and see if they've gotten a lease to use the CN. I don't anticipate, even if that was to fall through and not get like a lease or by any stretch, not sure that they could possibly get the Algonquin Trail open anyway. I don't think that's any intention this year. I don't think that could ever happen now at this late date or late time. But anyway, so that's one thing we want to make sure where that is, and then we'll report back to council when that lease gets in place or not in place. And as for the ATV, yes, they are scheduled to come to our next meeting, our regular council meeting, the 20th of October, at which time they will give us their update yearly, which they normally do, but it would maybe be an opportunity for council to ask them any questions that they see with regards to this matter, if they so wish.
I know that when the neighborhood of those 3 streets mentioned down at Burns Drive, etc., spoke to the county in the spring, that the county did offer some type of tree planting to act as a buffer for the Algonquin Trail. And maybe Dean, you can give council an update on that.
I did speak to Jason Davis at the county. He did have an email that he was responding to that stated that they would support the trees and maybe even help with regards to the costs and the planting. He didn't really tell me exactly, but I just said as long as he was to respond to the residents, because they were waiting for a response. So that was, we had that discussion. And I also asked him, there was a concern about the actual, how if there was a cross section available for what exactly the trail looks like after the capping is done, or what needs to be done to get that capping in place. So the width of the trail, and he told me between 3.5 to 4 meters is usually the platform, and it's covered with stone dust. So he's to send me that cross section, because there was a concern that they would be moving around the ballast, which some people feel that that's a troublesome area. But he did say that that's not necessarily has to happen. They can cap on top of the ballast. So that, again, he's going to get me that a bit of that information, so that might alleviate some of those concerns.
So maybe it'll open up to some questions at this point. Debbie.
Thank you, Mayor. In regards to some kind of a buffer, vegetation or otherwise, I think that, if we end up being at the point where we can't provide an alternative route, then I would like to, see our council advocate strongly with the county to assist with some type of buffer. There has to be something there to try to alleviate the impact that this is going to have on the residents. So certainly something we should consider down the road, writing a letter or being a delegation to county council.
Yeah, I know that we did mention to the Algonquin Trail Committee at the county that once we've done all our homework, that we would set up a meeting with them, with that group, along with the city and ourselves, and possibly representatives from Snow Country and Terry Voudry, just so that moving forward we'd all be on the same page. So once we come up with a possible ATV alternative, then I think that would be the time where we go meet, and then after that point, probably have that public meeting that we've promised all along. The question, sorry, Alan, 1 second. The question with the public meeting is, we're not quite sure how to move forward with it with COVID, so we have to work on that. Alan?
So a lot of the people that I've been in contact with that, of course, are on the ATV side of things, they're very interested in using the Algonquin Trail for ATVing, and they're not so much interested in driving on municipal and county paved roads with their ATV. They actually want to be on a trail system, and I was kind of under the impression that the Algonquin Trail, if we don't find a bypass for motorized, that the county then makes the decision to move forward. That was my understanding.
Totally correct. The county is told all 17 municipalities, I believe 12 have the Algonquin Trail in their municipalities, that any municipality can provide a bypass provided it passes all their rules and regulations. So in no way am I sitting here saying I want ATVs to be not on the Algonquin Trail. All I'm trying to do with Dean is do our due diligence that if there was an option for council to decide on, we would bring it to council and council would make that decision. Debbie, another question?
Thank you, Mayor. Probably just a clarification, because I misspoke when I said a delegation to county council. You would definitely, have to make that a delegation if you wanted with the Algonquin Trail Committee and not county council.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? I know some people emailed or called me. Any comments tonight on that? Certainly you're not making any decisions tonight. Again, we are trying to keep council informed as we proceed down the line of looking at the options. Alan?
We do have to soon make a decision on what we're doing one way or the other. We've been playing with this now for way, way too long. If we can't find the alternative, then we need to tell the county that we don't have an alternative and move on.
Totally agree with that, Alan. And every time we try to investigate something, we just get turned around. So at this point, I have informed the spokesperson for Burns Drive-In area that the snowmobile issue at this time, there will be no more investigation, and we will be advising the county that we will not have, we don't have a bypass for snowmobiles. And I would hope that by the end of November or mid-November, we'll have comments back for the ATVs. So I would assume and I would hope the only thing that's holding us back right now, because I know there's a group that wanted to speak to myself or to council, but they're all COVID is getting in the way of having a public meeting. And I know some of you have voiced saying that you want to have a public meeting to let the residents speak. So Dean's going to work on that. But I truly believe, Alan, I agree with you. And I would like to see notification sent from our municipality by the end of the year to the county. So that's our goal. Anything else? Anybody else? Keith?
Coming back to the perhaps having some trees as a buffer, what are we looking at in terms of like how close to the actual bed can those trees be? Has anybody looked into that yet? Or how many trees would actually be needed?
No, I don't believe so. I know that the county owns from the rail bed to some of the residents, maybe 45 feet of land. So there's lots of room, which is county property, that the trees could be put on. So I don't know exactly how close they'd be to the trail. Maybe Dean has more info on that.
No, it's never been discussed in my purview, but also, I mean, I think it would be a matter of, depending on what the resident wants there. I think the county be, willing to do whatever it wants, whether they're certain, depending on the type of tree, obviously, and how close you can get them. I think they, for the most part, want kind of a semi-secure barrier, so that might put them to whatever. But no, it hasn't been told how many they would need or how close they would be.
Brian?
Trees are a nice idea, but it would be 20 years before they would actually be effective as any sort of a sound or dust barrier. Do we have any way of fencing or any other alternative? Because trees, most of those residents will be gone by 20 years from now.
Yeah, I don't know as far as the trees. I don't know how tall they are. We haven't heard any of that yet. But it's certainly not up to the municipality to create a buffer to the extent of a fence. You can imagine if we were to start running a fence along Burns Drive and the other streets down there, and next thing you know, we're putting it up at the west end, and we'd be spending $500,000 in fencing. So I don't think that's an alternative. But I do know that local taxpayers in certain areas are willing to spend some money. So I don't know where that's going to go. That's going to have to be done with the county and the residents, hopefully with us engaged in that as well, as far as support, not financially though. Brian?
Yeah, I'm just saying that if it's recognized that there is a problem and an issue there that requires some sort of buffering, it needs to be effective in the short term, not 20 years from now.
I understand that, but I believe right through the Algonquin Trail that the county has not done any buffering in any area where the trail has gone. So I don't know. That's going to be up to the county to tell us what's going to happen.
Okay.
Well, when we get more info, we'll certainly let you know. Anybody else? No? Okay. So we'll move forward to our fire chief. Hello, Tim. Tim, you there? I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, loud and clear, sir.
Oh, good. My production manager here is a little bit slow at sometimes, so.
I notice you got the headset now, and
oh, hey, things are moving on, boy. Wait till I get the tunes rolling. We'll really be going good.
So we have July and August in front of you for the
You
month.
should have September. Have you got September
Oh,
also?
I'm sorry, August and September. I apologize. Not hard to say that you guys have been very busy.
Well, yeah, the fires haven't slowed down. It's just, and of course, the MVCs. But I mean, obviously it's a funny year for us as it is for everybody else. And I mean, all we're doing is trying to keep things going and stay safe. That's all we can do. So,
Does anybody have any questions for our fire chief? No? Okay.
geez, don't ask all at once. I want to give a little nod out to Katie there. She's been working hard on Fire Prevention Week. Excuse me. You know, it's just this week, and she put a bunch of stuff on the social media for us, and she's sure pushing my butt there to get things done. So, but on near the end of the week, I think she's going to have all the pictures of the fire department on, and so it should be. Give her a little bit of thank you for it. Well done.
Katie is there as well. Thanks, Katie.
Mm.
Tim, how do you feel your budget is doing this year?
Well, it's like usual. I'm way below budget, like usual. You know, like nothing new. Like what? No, my budget's doing all right. I mean, we're actually probably saved hours because we haven't been training like we should be. We've tried it because we've just staying away from each other. But no, we're right in line. We're not going to be. Our calls is about the same as it was. We're running about the same, so we'll probably be up in calls a little bit, but our income should be in a little bit because I don't know if you noticed, but our MVC calls are up. They're going to be up now. The parameters for us to be called have been changed, so it's we're called to every call now. That if the paramedics are called to the call, we're also called. So the advantage to that is that we do charge back the insurance for us being there. So,
right,
but.
Are the OPP still there as much as normal, or?
Well, they're not following us quite as much, but they're no. Actually, I think they've backed off a little bit. Well, they're. I know they're busy, but and so they haven't been following us as much. But no, the chiefs of Renfrew County decided to change the parameters because there was too many times we were getting called out and called off and called out and called off. So we just decided Pembroke has been doing it for the last 8 or 10 years that every time a paramedics or the EMS is called to an accident scene, they've also called the fire department. So we've done the same Renfrew County wide now. So it'll increase our calls. It's going to increase them obviously a little bit.
Right. Okay. Keith.
Tim, do you do the cleanup of the spilt fuels and that as well when you're there?
We do. We contain it. Okay. Our job is just to contain it so it doesn't get worse. It's really up to whoever does the towing to do the cleanup. And if it's beyond that, then obviously the TSSA has to be called in and then they'll make a decision on who does the cleaning. But we contain the spill as much as we can, and most times it's just a small spill. It's just that's our job. But anything major, no, it gets turned over actually to the Ministry of Environment, and they call in the TSSA, and then could be anybody who does the actual cleanup of major stuff. So,
okay, thanks.
Okay, Brian.
Are the cranes I see at the fiberboard plant related to the fire there in August?
No, excuse me. No, they, the fire in August actually was very good because it was part of the new part that they've put in, a new structure they put in, and it had the sensors, the new sensors, and it has its own deluge system. So the great thing about it was it deluged the major fire before anything could get carried away. And then basically we went in and cleaned a little bit of the, we found the hot spot and got rid of the hot spot and then was good after that. But no, they are doing a lot of updating there, like a lot of replacing things. And they've changed the one big boiler thing they had that burnt wood has actually now been changed over to natural gas. So will be safer in the long run. So no, they're doing they're putting a lot of money into that and a lot of updates. And Actually, we were supposed to do another tour there at the end of the month, but we've canceled it now because of the COVID. So we'll wait till things get a little bit better. But no, they're doing a lot of updating.
Good.
Mhm.
That it for Fire Chief Tim? Okay, thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
You can hang on if you wish.
I watch you on the other channel, then I don't have to comment.
Or comment by mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, down to subcommittees, Festival Hall. We have a report in front of us. Jennifer, anything you want to? No, yeah, Jennifer, you're on that committee. Anything you want to add?
No, just he put most of it in the report. He's quite stressed. It's not looking good for the rest of the year and maybe even to next year, but you could feel his stress throughout the meeting, but we'll get through.
So he stays on full time through this?
Yes.
Okay. Debbie, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I was very, very impressed with his report. And Jennifer, if you can take that back to him, please, because it was absolutely excellent. Has there been any reconciliation regarding the population figures? Because that seems to have been an issue for him.
I don't believe that was even mentioned at the meeting. Dean, Charlene, I don't think so, right?
Go ahead, Charlene.
There was talk. He couldn't understand that the MPAC-ish numbers are quite a bit lower than the numbers put out by Stats Canada. But in the agreement, it actually refers to the MPAC numbers. So he understands that quite well now. He's satisfied with that. He doesn't agree, obviously, but because it could generate more revenue is what he's saying for a festival hall. But in the agreement, it actually states the MPAC population numbers. So we're sticking with that for further years. And he's very satisfied with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for Jennifer, Festival Hall?
Maybe I'll just comment on the, there is a program, as you can see, a project that they're hoping to get some Trillium funding with regards to seating in the hall. I know they've been struggling, but they've reapplied, and hopefully we've applied as a collaboration with the three partners. So hopefully we receive that and we can move forward with regards to that project.
Okay, thanks, Dean. Public Library. Keith.
We had a meeting, I guess, 3 weeks ago, a monthly meeting with the library board, and our next one is October 15th. The computer downloads at the library have been increasing the last little while, last 6-8 weeks. And I guess with COVID, it is certainly allowing more people to make use of those downloads.
Any questions for Keith? Jennifer.
Not really a question, just a statement. How are things going there?
Going well. Open every day now, and a little bit reduced hours, but they're carrying on, and people are coming in. There's no problem with wearing masks. They're all wearing masks, all hand sanitizing the minute they come in and prior to leaving. So no, it's going well.
But meeting wise and everything's good?
So far, so good. Yeah.
Good. Okay, excuse me. Under Public Works, Timberline Snowmobile Clubhouse, future uses. Mark, you're up.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So this is a report to start the discussion on looking for recommendations for future uses for the Timberline Snowmobile Club. By no means are we looking for a decision tonight. This is just to start that discussion and see what options are before us. As the committee is aware, the Timberline Snowmobile Club is seeking operation of the clubhouse at 1 Heenan Road. The club has been constructed and operated by their volunteer group for almost 40 years. The building is on the same property as the Alison Fraser Recreation Center and is adjacent to the Laurentian Valley Skating Trail. With the clubhouse and all of the assets being returned to the township, the municipality must start the process and making a decision for the future use of the facility. Council, various staff and volunteers were consulted for their input, potential uses, and there's some summaries below. There are 7. I don't know if committee wants me to read through them all, if they're aware of what's there. Maybe I'll just kind of I'll give a higher end overview. The first one is have the building become part of the Allison Fraser Recreation Portfolio. So it would be operated by the volunteer group in a similar manner to the other recreation centers in the township. This would include rentals, general public events, community events, and that sort of thing. And then the volunteer group would also run things like the canteen and bar if that continues. And then the usage would include groups that are already using the property, like the snowmobile club, the existing horse club, and the skating trail. The second option was potentially to create a new volunteer group similar to the other facilities that we have. They'd be the same structure as those, where there'd be a grant process and that being putting forward. And this could be potentially led by the skating trail volunteers or some other volunteers from the community. Another option is that was brought forward was to close the facility so that it does not compete against other township owned recreation centers. A fourth point that was brought forward was the building should be renovated to handle accessibility issues and larger accessible washrooms. The parking lot could be used for accessible parking and parking for the aged, and the parking should be extended from the clubhouse all the way over to the current trailhead. So that would tie in some uses for the trail. The fifth comment was to repurpose the building to enhance the opportunities that promote the skating trail. The trail is great for not only skating, but snowshoeing as well in the winter, and having a place for people to put on their gear to warm up would be a huge asset. And again, not to mention the washroom facilities, which is far better than the portable toilets that we're using now in the winter months. There's also potential for the trail to be used in the summer months, as well as for special events year round. The sixth point was to keep the building as a township owned and operated facility. So the township would have paid staff to coordinate the rentals and the bookings and to run the facility, including canteens and bars. And the seventh point was that the facility should be operated by the township. The building would be it'd be a hub for Laurentian Valley, and the idea of explore and play within Laurentian Valley. It would act as a mini tourism information booth that would provide information on local trails, including cycling, walking, running, ATVing, snowmobiling, snowshoeing, and skating, and other recreation centers and opportunities that are in the area. And the use as a free parking option for people to start their adventures through Laurentian Valley. Now, I know council did receive the majority of these comments, and if they're in full, so this is just a summary of all the points that were brought forward. Some other things to note that should the building reopen this winter, we would have to rename the facility, and that's part of the requirements to meet for the OFSC, if there is anything open, we have to get the Timberline name as a snowmobile club off the building. So that would be something to come in the near future if it's opening. The discussion about would the township want to keep a liquor license for the sale of alcohol out of that building, or potentially leave that to other facilities the township has. The Timberline Snowmobile Club hasn't expressed an interest to want to utilize the building for their volunteer executive meetings because the club still exists and has the trail network and still will meet monthly. And they're also working on some poker runs and such for fundraisers for some local charities. And having the existing services there, like electricity, the drilled well, the septic system, the washrooms and such, are key to the future development of the skating trail as a four-season attraction. And again, financial implications will greatly vary depending on the approach the township takes. And in the report, I just attached a couple of photos that I had taken, I think, a winter or two ago of just of the inside and the outside of the building. So, not sure if at this point if committee has any questions or comments or thoughts as we move forward, or I'm just looking for some input.
Alan.
I think it'd be an awful shame to close that building. I think we've had such success with the skating trail, and you know that can really build on the success that we've had there. Yeah, we're going to probably have to put some money into it, but I think it's worth it. The success we've had over there with the skating trail and a spot for people to go in and put their stuff on. To be honest with you, it'd be a real shame to lose this facility.
Brian.
Have you been working on ways to extend the trail so that you could put your skates on and be able to skate directly from the clubhouse? Would that be able to be done for this year?
We've explored it a little bit, but there's some significant grade changes, and we have to sort of figure that out. I'm estimating it's probably 6 to 8 feet in drop from the starting area where you tie your skates to the front door. So if we can't stay on, I'll say, the upper road where you walk in, because that's where the vehicle traffic comes in. So we'd have to go off the back end of the parking lot through the bush and over to the clubhouse that way. But just because the entire parking lot and the property slopes downwards, and because the trailhead is built up to be level, we would have to deal with getting enough fill brought in to be able to bring that over. Not saying it's not doable, but it may not be ideal for skating, having to go up a 6 or 8 foot incline, in the first 50 or 100 meters to be able to get up to the trail network. It'll be good going one way, but not so good going the other way. So it's I have to take the level, and then some weekend I'll go over and I'll do that just to verify. But there are some great challenges for skating back and forth.
Jennifer, please.
Just my opinion, but Mark, this was your dream. You saw this and you made it work. What do you see for the use of that? Do you have any? You heard our input. Do you have any of your own thoughts that you think that you could?
Yeah, I mean, some of the comments in the report, I think reflect where I'm at and where our volunteer group is at. With our volunteer base, I did speak to quite a few of them when we had first heard that the clubhouse was closing. The approach of the volunteers was that we would like to see the building exist. We didn't know, especially with COVID going on right now, it's not a big facility, and there's some challenges with it, for egress, for the washrooms. But everyone who's involved in the trail said, absolutely, we want this to exist. Again, it's having washrooms, having electricity. We could potentially start eliminating generators. It opens up, I think, some fundraising opportunities for the trail as well, where we're doing, hot dog and hot chocolate nights and trying to, raise money. We're doing it outside, and sometimes it's not warm and ideal. So to have, the kitchen and be able to do more, I think there's some uses there. Having the trail up to it, having it as a change room, that does somewhat change the use of the building. If we introduce the building as a change room, you're probably closing the bar and closing your canteen, because people aren't going to want to sit down and have something to eat in a locker room, right? It's not I think we're going to have to take one approach or the other. It's either going to be a recreation facility where you can go for a skate, go inside and warm up. But I don't see a family sitting on a bench, having hot chocolate while there's, numerous other people in there putting skates on as a change room. So it's I think there has to be a connection with the skating trail, but, again, it's that Four Seasons, there's a lot of other opportunities with that building to raise some money as well. So it's there's a lot to consider.
I agree. And a change room is not something I would do. It'd be kind of like Mondays or chili nights, and, keep it open so that they go there for 5 o'clock, eat their chili, and then go for a 2-hour skate. To me, I think that would be a great idea to really utilize the building.
Okay.
My opinion.
Mm-hmm. Debbie, thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor. So a couple of things. I absolutely think that it should stay open. I think it has massive potential. The comments that you read to us tonight, Mark, which are obviously in our report, I get very excited when I hear some of the brainstorming that's happening out there. So a couple of things. The extremely dedicated group of volunteers that you had who started the trail for us. I would like to think that if they are keen, and I mean, this is their baby, right? They've started something. It's extremely successful. It's a tourism driver for Laurentian Valley. So what I'm wondering is if they are interested in forming their own association to operate the trail, and I'm hoping it would be, the vision of turning it into a 4-season at some point. If that group is interested, perhaps they could get together and come back to council with some ideas that they would like to see us consider for, the coming year at least, and then perhaps further down. That was just my comments.
Anybody else? Brian, and then Chris.
Yeah, I was just going to say, don't dismiss. If you look at every ski chalet, people change and get ready and put their ski boots on, and they serve food and hot chocolate and other things, and that's the normal in every ski chalet. So it works.
Chris.
My recommendation, or what I'd like to see, is that it become a municipally run building. And anytime that the trail is open, that building is open. Obviously with volunteers, they're a huge part of our township, but just one organizer from our staff and volunteer labor, co-op students, any type of volunteer that wanted to help us out. But we need one coordinator.
Okay.
Obviously, Mark's going to look after whatever's needed maintenance-wise and ice-wise and all of that stuff, but we need somebody just to organize the volunteers and run it underneath our banner.
Keith.
I think there's an opportunity there for a multi-use. If the Allison Fraser people want to run it for the skating trail, canteen purposes, but also allow meetings on other nights and have a combination and minimal rents or whatever, and absolutely make use of the structure that's there.
Mark, I just have a quick question for you. One question is, have you spoken to Allison Fraser at all regarding this? If there's any interest in them assuming it, maybe in cooperation with the volunteers of the skating trail, or is there like a team that could be put together? I'm curious about that. My second question is, I know that your committee spends a lot of time on the skating trail. I know anytime that we've been out there to help with the hot chocolate and hot dogs, whatever, they're always there. My concern would be, are we going to exhaust the current volunteers, or is there a way that we're going to get more volunteers?
So the first part, I did speak with Betty King. I think it was early last week that I spoke with her as the chairperson of Allison Fraser. And she was just speaking on behalf of their committee, but she did see that there could be a possibility of the building, falling under the operation of Allison Fraser. She noted that the horse club on the property sometimes looks for a place for a meeting, and sometimes the Allison Fraser Rec Center is booked, so it gives them another option to be able to have a second place for rentals. So, and I think there is a potential for a partnership there with the skating trail volunteers. I mean, right now we're a volunteer group, but we're not really a volunteer group because we're sort of not under the same structure as what the other volunteer groups are. As for being burnt out, I would think the first year we had the skating trail, we had a lot of interest for volunteers, and at that point it was a lot of labor and outside work. We had a lot of volunteers who came for 1 or 2 days and didn't come back. They didn't want to do ice maintenance or that sort of thing, but they would have, helped in a canteen or helped in that way. So I think we would get a lot of new volunteers if we had a building and people don't want to do the ice maintenance, but they want to be able to help out and, do some food service or do that part of it. So I think it would bring a lot of new volunteers to the trail.
Good. Debbie, please.
Thank you. Just in reference to Councillor Plo's comment about having a staff person involved, I think that's a really good idea that we want to consider. Certainly if we're starting something brand new like that, that it might be an opportunity. You know, I certainly see this as a community development project that could expand for us. And again, you know, we've got volunteers right now that are doing the skating trail, but we're going to need people if we have the vision of turning this into a Four Seasons trail, which I really hope that we do down the road. That there has to be some coordination. And again, you know, people want to come and volunteer. They don't want to necessarily volunteer every day, you know, or weekly or monthly or whatever. So some coordination, I think, would be helpful, at least at the initial stages of it, by our staff.
Okay. Chris, please.
Sorry, I'll just follow that up a little bit more. It's a world-class idea. You look at Arrowhead and all these other places in the parks where you go and pay $20. They get 50,000 visitors a year. I'm pretty sure Mark's pushing those numbers or getting close to them. So when somebody shows up there to check out Laurentian Valley, we want to make sure that the building's open and that it's done not just well, but perfectly. And I don't see why we wouldn't do that. It's a home run. Let's just keep hitting it out of the park and keep going with this idea.
Thank you. So to give Mark some direction after these comments to maybe figure out your annual costs, Mark, if say the skating club and or together Allison Fraser, how many hours you think would be required for a staff person? And maybe come back with some numbers.
Sure. Okay. And I think I'll try to maybe pull our skating trail volunteer group together. I know I was speaking to everyone individually, but maybe we could use the Timberline or meet outside there on a nice day and have a bit of a discussion to do some more brainstorming and perhaps include a couple of people from Allison Fraser as well, just to at least, you know, start that discussion, and then I'll bring that forward to the next meeting.
I think if there's any way possible to link the two, the skating trail and the building, would be huge, because if you're going to go out, you can't put your skates on there. So you're going to go out where they put on their skates now. They take their skates off. Chances are some people will go home unless we can entice them into the building. So that's probably your biggest stumbling block. Jennifer.
I have my Smart Serve, so if you need some volunteer bar work, I'm available.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything further for that, Council? Thanks, Mark, for all the effort so far into it. We'll move down to subcommittees. Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center. The gasification project is moving along. They're on time and on budget. It should be done, I believe, by mid-October or close to it. The center again has been busy with people being off and bringing out more waste to the site. I'm sure I mentioned to council a number of months ago that there was a municipality interested in buying into the waste recovery center, being Whitewater, which they approved to get an assessment done, which is required to find out the value of the center. That assessment has been done, and the assessed value came in at over 19 million, which is kind of a shock to us. And I'm sure it's going to be a shock to Whitewater, because we envisioned somewhere around the 14 mark. But as Sue explained to me today, that the value of landfill is so huge right now, it's increased the value of the center. But anyways, it's gone back to Whitewater for Whitewater to discuss, and then possibly come back to the board with some offers or suggestions how they can join. I just want to give council an update on that. I have nothing else for the center. If there's any questions. CPAC, nothing there, Jennifer? Okay. Public services for Nevada, for the recreation facilities and park COVID impacts. Hi, Nevada.
Hello. So last meeting, you had asked me to reach out to all the volunteer committees and see how COVID has impacted them in a financial way. So I prepared a report. It appears that the smaller parks like Pleasant View Park, Forest Lee Park really haven't been affected financially by it, but more so the parks that have the hall rental and offer the sporting programs are the ones that have been greatly affected this year because they haven't gotten any of their revenues from the sporting programs. Stafford Park, he said basically they're getting by, so it's not too bad there, but Allison Fraser seems to be the one that took the most hit because they lost almost $42,000 in revenues this year. So when I look at their financial statements, I think they're just gonna hopefully not get in the red by the end of the year. And Shady Nook took a different approach. They decided to cancel some of their programs, so they're not doing the ice this year and the hockey program in order to save money. Fortunately, they have the COVID testing site being done there 4 times a week, so they're hoping that that revenue will carry them through the winter months.
Okay, thanks, Nevada. Any questions for Nevada? Debbie.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm missing something somewhere, and I apologize, but I don't understand if Allison Fraser has been closed, why do they have $54,000 in expenses? I'm not understanding that.
Well, they're still paying, I guess they pay their maintenance people to take care of the property. From what I'm seeing, yeah, wages and salaries, $25,000 for that. They did put on the fall their winter carnival, which cost them $9,000 because it was before COVID. Another big expense is just building maintenance, $3,800. So heat and hydro. So hydro is $4,000 and heat is about $1,500. There's a bunch of other smaller under $1,000 expenses. So this year, so far, $54,000. Last year to date, it would have been $89,000 had they been open and running the halls and all their programs. So I was surprised myself, like they deal with quite a bit of expenses there.
Alan, please.
So I guess just my question is if there's some absence of revenue at both Shady Nook and Allison Fraser to Charlene, is that something that we can put through to the provincial government's program for COVID-19 on behalf of the recreation centers?
Well, we can. We haven't received the money yet. And like my report showed last month, we had about $51,000 left. Since then, we've probably spent another $20,000. So there's not much to throw around anymore unless we're going to take a hit with what we've provided so far to offset some of the loss of revenues that we've had with regards to the penalty and interest on the taxes, which was a big hit, and any expenses with the PPE. We can't, like I said, we can, but I'm not recommending it at this point in time. I think we need to wait a little bit longer to see how that's going to fare out at the township level. My understanding as well with Allison Fraser is I believe they have some reserves set aside, or they have a reasonably healthy bank account.
Yeah, I wasn't privy to that information, so I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. So I think overall they're going to be fine, but I guess we can review it later once we receive the money and tally up what we've used to date and what the association is. I noticed that, Nevada did comment about the expenses for the festival, but the Winter Carnival, but not the revenue. I don't know what kind of revenue they generate with regards to the winter carnival. So it may not be as bad, but.
Well, last year they generate about 12,000 and their expense is about 9. So I think they make about 3,000 off that event.
Right.
Okay,
So this
so
past year, did they make that much money?
Yeah, 2020 they made 12 and then their expenses were 9,100.
Yeah. So they have revenue there. So I think when we take a look at it later on, when we get the money and determine what council wants to actually put it towards, then we can decide then.
Alan, do you have a follow-up on that? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking more of the second intake, because there is a second intake from the province. So I was thinking more of the second intake. You did mention the last time we talked that probably most of that money would be used up at the municipal level, but there also is a second intake, and quite possibly we could apply in the second intake.
Yeah, there is a webinar that I can attend with regards to that. I don't know, because the municipality doesn't run it. I don't know if we can actually claim it. So that would be a question that I'd have to look into. Other than the recreation revenue, there really isn't anything that I see that we would qualify on that second intake. So it would have to be a clarification from the ministry to see whether or not an association-run recreation center is covered.
Alan again?
So that's exactly what I'm saying. Better to ask the question now and be told, no, it's not eligible, rather than not ask the question and find out down the road that, oh, we could have. That's all I'm saying is let's look into it and see if we have an opportunity to possibly cover some of this off.
Okay.
Yeah, I think between Katie and I, we can try to figure that out. Yep.
Debbie, you had a question? Okay, everybody's good? Okay, thanks, Nevada, for that report. I'll go down to subcommittees, Friends of the Disabled. Chris?
Sorry, Steve, nothing to report.
Okay. Shady Nook, Brian?
We had a meeting last night, and just as a point of clarification, we did discuss the whole ice issue or last night, and yes, the hockey is not going to go forward, but there was discussion as to whether the ice would go ahead or not, and some of the questions and challenges were with regards to rules for a rink, should we do public skating and accessibility to change rooms and lights, and what the capacity and monitoring would be, and those sorts of things. And I guess the discussion kind of came around to maybe it would be good to have a group meeting of all the recreation associations to see, are we going to be running hockey out at Allison Fraser? What's going to be happening at Stafford? What rinks are going to be, are we going to have no ice any place, or are we going to have ice on certain nights? And can we have different public skating on different nights and do it on a coordinated basis for all the rinks, and not be competing with the skating trail? Or maybe the skating trail is for public skating and we can use the other rinks for shinny or hockey, but to have a group discussion amongst all of the rinks on what we're going to do recreation wise for the winter.
I think that's a very good idea, Brian, and maybe Nevada could organize. Yeah, Nevada, go ahead first.
Yeah, I believe Stafford Park is also putting in their rink, as well as Allison Fraser. So yeah, that'd be good. Okay,
and are they running any hockey programs at either of those, or is it just for public skating? And then how is it going to be monitored for a number of people on the ice and all those sorts of things?
I don't know those answers, so a meeting would be a good idea. So I could try to coordinate that.
Okay.
For the 3 parks.
Okay, Brian, we're having some issues here with the internet. Laurie, do you want to, should we just give it a minute to see if it comes back in or what?
No, I don't seem to. I guess you're freezing a bit, I guess. I think so. Everybody else looks okay.
You're gonna have to take.
We can still hear you okay, Steve, so you might as well continue.
Okay, so continue on.
No, that was about
So
it last
that-
night at Shady Nook.
Okay, so I can hear anything. I might screen it.
We hear you. You hear us? Okay. You don't hear us?
He's gone now, Dean.
Okay, so we'll just maybe take a 5-minute recess here till we get sorted out. Maybe we can take a bio break and we'll be right back.
10-4.
Your suggestion was that all the rec committees meet?
Well, just, I guess there was a lot of confusion. There's the potential for a new ice maker at Shady Nook this winter. So, and they were thinking that if there wasn't hockey, it would be an opportunity for them to kind of train. But there was just so many questions for the whole logistics of it this winter as to how that would look, and that there should be some sort of a coordinated way of doing it. Not just even in our township, what are they doing in Petawawa and Pembroke and other places? Because, you know, they're talking about hockey, some places where they have 2 tickets for parents to come in. Well, you know, how's that relate to an outdoor rink and change rooms and everything else?
Okay. So does council agree the rec center should get together? Maybe Nevada can do some homework on some of those questions Brian has put forward. And Jennifer, you could work with Nevada on coordinating that meeting since you're chair of rec. Does that sound good, Dean?
Yes,
Yep.
that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so Nevada will be in contact. Chris, sorry, go ahead.
So off mute here. So Nevada had that going really well before the COVID and all of that hit. Like the rec groups were coming around and sharing ideas and all of that sort of thing. So I think just let her run with it. It'll be fine. And like all the indoor rinks are having a little something, you know, it's not like the way it was, but my daughter's out playing hockey and they're public skating in Ottawa. So I'm sure if we ask, follow Renfrew County Health Unit's guidelines, we should be able to work something out. And maybe all those ice makers can get together too. Like I hadn't seen the Shady Nook rink as good as when Mark was running it. So I'm sure he's got good ideas for those people on how to make ice. He makes it in the middle of the bush. You should be able to make it on a concrete pad. So they should all get together. Why not? You know what I mean? Everybody's just running around circles doing the same job over and over and over. So why don't we just all get together?
Okay. Okay. Dean will give direction to get that rolling. Allison Fraser. Chris?
Me again, sorry, nothing to report.
Okay. Forest Lee?
Nothing to report.
Pleasant View?
Pleasant View, nothing there. We're just cutting grass and stuff, but it's open and cleaned, which is good. Mark, do you have an update on revitalization of the sports pad?
Mark, I think you muted.
Oh, sorry, second mute switch. So we're ordering the tile surface, but we're going to wait to put it down to next spring. Just no point putting it down late in the year and you know, having it suffer the winter. But we'll get it here and paid for, and then the idea is we'll use a volunteer group to be able to put it together. It's essentially comes in 1 foot square tiles, and they're basically just an interlock, and they click together and go over the surface. So we'll have it here, you know, later in the fall, and then we'll be ready for install first thing in the spring.
And would asphalt and posts and all that be ready to go in the spring?
Yeah, so the asphalt repair work, there'll probably be a little bit done early next year with some crack sealing in that first, and then over top, yes.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay. And Stafford Park? Nothing to report. Council comments? Any questions? Comments? Jennifer?
On that email that we received today, is there any feedback on that?
On the email you received today for OPP, you mean? From the
No,
city?
Eldorado.
We haven't had time, Dean and Mark haven't had time to discuss it, so one of them will get out an email once it's been discussed.
Okay.
Brian?
I'm just wondering how long it's going to take to get to meet in one room again.
I was just going to comment on that, Councillor Ugly. So I guess as I've spoke to a few years, we're working on obviously some electronic protocols. Certainly some municipalities on the lower end, but some of them have started to meet more in the chambers in actual being present. We have some challenges, obviously, because obviously we still have to maintain a public presence, and to do that, we need to be able to broadcast a meeting back to the public. I don't see us putting very many public in this room, unfortunately. So that's one of the things. We have ordered the equipment, and I've been told that it'll be here within 3 to 4 weeks. At that point, then to put it together. In the meantime, also there was, and I know Lori was there and sent it out, and I did hear through another colleague the same message from Dr. Kushman, who's stating that the question was asked, can we have council meetings and not have them with masks? And his answer was, well, if you can social distance, you should. But having said that, council's our leader in the communities, and if you can be having it virtually, he's encouraging us to continue virtually because of the fact that it's not conducive to having, in a good setting, unless you can really, establish the social distance, and obviously the public is not coming anyway. So obviously we'll monitor the situation. We have some technological issues with equipment. We're going to get that sorted out, and once we have that, we'll monitor it. But I anticipate, probably at least December before we have one in house, and maybe we're better to wait till January. We'll wait and see how I don't want to speculate. Wait and see how it's going, and at that point, but the public is still a ways away from entering these chambers. In my opinion.
Follow up, Brian?
Well, I was just laughing because I was wondering what the city of Pembroke would think of you referring to them as a lower municipality. But yeah, I'm just.
No, I meant in numbers. Sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I was talking in numbers. There's only a few that are actually having in-person meetings. Yeah. I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah, so move along with that. I know it's not the same being virtual, but it's a lot safer, and with what's going on today in Ontario and Quebec, and it's it's not as if we can't operate virtually. So we'll continue to go as we are and move on. Keith.
For November meetings concerning the budget, will we have hard copies available first to review and be able to discuss?
I would hope to be able to get that out to everybody ahead of time.
Good.
Okay. Now, yeah, okay, never mind. Okay, so we have the Reeves report. Thanks, Debbie, for that. I don't have any questions specifically. Does anybody have any for Debbie? Or anything more you want to add, Debbie? I know it was very in-depth.
No, just my apologies for sending it to everyone last night, but I've been a little busy.
Okay. Keith.
Just some clarification on the official plan amendments. Prior, or I guess earlier in the year, there was talk about all the changes to the PPS with deer yards and things like that. And that isn't going to change at all with this right now. Is that correct?
No, we will be doing some new mapping for the county of Renfrew. Once that new mapping is completed, that's when we will be having a public meeting on the OP.
Okay, good.
Anybody else have any questions for Debbie? Okay, if not, Dean, in camera.
Yes, we do have 2 issues in camera, so I need a mover and a seconder.
Brian and Chris.
Moved by Councillor Ugly, second by Councillor Plow, that council and committee meeting of October 6, 2020 move into closed session at 6:50. chaired by Mayor Bennett according to Ontario Municipal Act, Section 239.2 and Section 239.3.1, in order to address a matter pertaining to the security of the property of the municipality and local board, 239.2A, and a proposed or pending acquisition of disposal of land by the municipality or local boards, 239.2C.
All in favor? Carried. Now, did we decide, Dean, if Charlene and Mark are staying, or?
I think all three could stay unless they have something to do, but I think all three are fine to stay.
Okay, no, I knew Laurie was staying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess based on that note, I'll turn it over to Sean to close the meeting.